Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Brandeis Graduate Professional Studies, we would like to welcome you to our special event webinar, 7 Strategies to Rock Your Online Brand, led by Shadé Adu. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us this evening. So before we begin, we would like to go over a few tips on utilizing our communications platform. You are currently in listen-only mode. You can raise your hand or send an emoticon using the icon at the top left of your screen. The picture on the screen showing now shows an example of how to do this. I'd like to ask everyone to briefly send a note through the chat box just to confirm that you can hear me. Okay, thank you. And please feel free to type any questions you have during our session, and we will try to answer them as we go along. We'd like this session to be as interactive as possible. And now a little bit about our presenter this evening, Shadé Adu. She is a personal brand strategist, speaker, life coach, and founder of Savvy Solutions Consulting. Savvy Solutions is a professional development firm that provides personal branding, coaching, and diversity training for individuals, businesses, organizations, and corporations. Ms. Adu specializes in personal branding, target audience attraction, coaching, and brand diversity. And now I'd like to hand it over to you, Shadé. Shadé, thank you so much for being here this evening.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me? I just want to make sure, do a sound check. Can everyone hear me? Yes, I hear a yes. Awesome. Thank you for being on this evening. We will be talking about 7 strategies to rock your online brand. As it was previously mentioned, my name is Shadé Wayadu, and you already know a little bit about me, so let's dig right in. Thank you so much for Brandeis University. Thank you so much to the Graduate Professional Studies for having me. During this webinar, we're going to talk a little bit, and please feel free to interrupt me and ask questions, and I'll look down at the chat box and try my best to answer as many questions as possible. Please feel free. I want this to be interactive as possible. But during this webinar, we will be chatting about how to create clear brand messaging, identify your target audience, communicate your expertise and influence online, and create content that will attract your target audience. And we're going to chat a little bit about that today. Okay, so why take your brand online? Why is it so important to have an online personal brand? As a person, it's extremely important to brand yourself. But if you're thinking about starting a business, it has become extremely easy to start a business online. Anyone can do it. If you have a phone or a computer, you can have a business. In this information driven economy and technological society, it has just become so much easier for people to start businesses online. The tech savviness, we live in a society where everyone is glued to their phones or their gadgets and Android gadgets. We're glued to these things 24 hours a day. And it's extremely important and lucrative to think about how we can benefit from this technological society. In addition to that, there are low cost, sometimes no cost to barriers to entry to enter into the online space. Previously, if you had to think of a franchise or a brick and mortar business, there were barriers to entry. There was capital that you needed to fundraise and have in order to start your business. But you can start a business online with just a dream and an idea. And literally, you can do it for, like I said previously, low cost to no cost. And there's some amazing things that you can do to automate your businesses and have them run 24 hours a day. Unlike a brick and mortar that may be running for 10 hours a day, you can successfully run a business online without yourself through automation, through several different services, and you can have that running 24 hours a day and literally make money and be profitable in your sleep. It's also been easier because you can connect with people from around the world. Not only is it just people in your neighborhood or in your town or in your state, you can literally connect with people and sell your services online to people around the world. It has literally leveled the playing field. It is taking small personal businesses, small solo entrepreneurs, and giving them the opportunity to compete with larger corporations and companies through the online market space. Okay, let me go to the next one. Okay, what is branding? So we know why and how it's making it so much easier to get online, but what exactly is branding? I just love the definition that this comment that Jeff Bezos of Amazon, CEO and founder of Amazon says. I just really love this quote, and this is what I use as my definition. Your brand is what people say when you're not in the room. It's extremely important if you are an entrepreneur and a business owner or someone who is also a personal brand, a professional. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. So it's extremely important when we're developing our brands and building our online presence that we think about how we want to portray ourselves when we are not in that room and what people say when we're not there, because that is what is going to linger in the minds of others. It's not really what we say, it's what others say about us. And to define it a little bit more, this is my personal definition of it. It's a strategic and systematic process that creates a profitable and captivating client experience. In this market space, in this time frame, we're really thinking about creating experiences for people. There's a picture of an iPhone in on the slide, and that was intentional because we think of the experience that Apple, this company, has created with their products and behind their brand and behind the marketing that they use to portray their products online or in other spaces. It is really an experience. So that's what we want to start thinking about. And it's a strategy. There's a strategy behind how Apple launches products. And because the playing field is so level now, we can also launch ideas and informational products online too and be successful. Branding versus marketing. So the old school idea of marketing is to put out products, do this advertising, 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 talking about ourselves and telling people that we're great. With great branding, people will talk about you and they will say how great you are. And that's the goal of branding. It really is to connect you with people and have others tell your story for you. And that's extremely important to note. Like, people will talk about you and say that you are great. Oops. Versus you telling people that you're great. So there's an extreme difference between the marketing and branding. You do implement marketing within branding, but in this space, it's extremely important to make sure that your brand messaging aligns with what you want people to say about you and how you want to be portrayed. So there should be some branding marketing alignment. And it's extremely important to think about the two. But we really want to focus on what other people are saying about us versus what we say about ourselves. Great branding. Great branding answers this question. It answers this question for your target audience. It answers the question for people you're speaking to. It answers that timeless question of what's in it for me. Our audience, our target ideal clients are always thinking about what's in it for me. How can you help them? How do you solve their problem? What exactly can you do to solve someone else's problem and make their lives a little bit easier? Whether you're someone who is really useful and helpful in the health and fitness market space, or someone who is a coach, or you are a graphic designer or a web designer. What is in it for your target audience? How can they be helped? How can you solve their problem? And one of the things that you really want to do when you're answering this question, because remember, our target audience is tuned into what's in it for me TV, you want to make sure that you're providing value, value, and more value. So you want to make sure that your brand is aligned with providing value. And how do you provide value? It's through solving a problem and helping people and coming from a service-based position. If we think of another brand that I really do like that's doing really well, is the Tom's Shoes. Tom's Shoes provides shoes for other countries. So purchases, when you buy a pair of Toms, another pair of shoes goes to another country. And they're providing a value of, they're serving a purpose. If you don't have shoes, they give you shoes. I mean, you paid for the shoes. And then they also have a conscious-based, service-based value where they also donate shoes to another country. So you want to think about what value offer do you have? What problem do you solve? And how can you help your audience by telling them what's in it for them? Because that's extremely important when you're doing great branding and having clear messaging. Okay, so now we're going to dig into these seven stellar strategies that you can use to rock your online brand. You want a brand that rocks. And these are the three things that we're going to talk about for the rest of this our time together. Now, please feel free to interrupt me. You can ask questions. I'm looking at the chat box. Please feel free to make this interactive if you have any questions. I would love to answer them during this presentation. So, number one, we're going to talk about discovering your why, rocking your brand messaging, specifying your target audience, positioning your expertise, becoming a social influencer, creating consistent content, and networking to net worth. Those stellar strategies, these tips, tools, tricks that you can use to rock your online brand. Whether you're rocking your online brand as a professional in the career space, or you're rocking your online brand as someone who is selling a service or a product. Discovering your why. It is extremely important when you're thinking about your personal brand and you're thinking about branding that you know why you're doing what it is that you do. Why do people need your services and your products? Why? What solutions do they help with? What problems do they solve? And you also want to think about, is your idea, is it innovation? Are we talking about innovation as in you're creating the first iPod or iPad? Or is it expansive where you're creating cases for phones, or you're creating things that can go in addition to what's already out there? Expansive is you want to expand that industry, you want to make it larger. Innovation is you're creating something new, you're doing something absolutely groundbreaking. So you want to think about that. Are my ideas new? Or am I just expanding an idea, or I'm entering a place where there are people doing what I want to do, but I'm just expanding it and I'm doing something slightly different to make me stand out and be absolutely great. So you want to think about that too, because it's really extremely important to know where you fit into this whole branding and online marketplace. Am I the right person for the job? There's a lot of things that we could all do that would probably make us money, but are you the right person to do that? And that really goes into, is this right for me? Do you have the necessary talents and skills, the necessary educational background and skill set to properly execute this idea that you have? So you want to think about that. Am I the right person? Should there be someone else who does this? Or maybe there's something else that I could be doing. And if you are transitioning into the entrepreneurial space, you really want to think about, is my idea profitable? Because there's a lot of things that I would love to do, but they may not be profitable. So you want to think about, and that's totally okay. It can be a hobby, but if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, you do not want to acquire an expensive hobby. So you want to make sure that your idea is profitable. And how can you figure that out? You can determine if it's profitable, number one, if someone is doing it and they're profiting from it. That's one way. Or if it serves a need. And you want to come from a space of serving others. And that is how you can do really well in the online marketplace and really stand out. You want to solve problems. Innovation comes through solving a problem. There's something that we're missing that we needed, and now you are here to solve that problem. So I want you to think about this when you're discovering your why, and really be intentional and really think, like, what can I do to really solve a problem and help society, whether it's with a product or a service. And this can also be an information product. Maybe there's something that you know how to do. For example, if you're really good at playing the piano, you can easily make some YouTube videos and teach people how to play the piano in the comforts of their home. So there's different things that you may have, skill sets that you have that can be profitable, but it's extremely important to be clear about it and make sure that you really are an expert in that particular field. Brand messaging. So it's extremely important to rock it. So part of what we talked about in knowing your why is talking a little bit about that mission. What are you here to do? What do you do? Why do you do it? Remembering that why, going into that. How do you do it? And how do you do it? How did that happen? How did it happen? Your process and your systems that you need to have in place. Remember, great branding is really about strategy and systems being in place, because you want to duplicate success. You want your success to be duplicatable. So you need to have that process and system in place to make it happen over and over again. And who do you do it for? It's extremely important when you're creating an online brand to be very clear about who you serve, how you serve them, and the services and products that you offer. For example, if you are a fitness coach and maybe you work with postpartum mothers, they just had children and they're trying to get back in shape and they're looking for time to spend with their children and they're looking for time to squeeze in exercise. So you come to their homes or you do a boot camp in the park and you teach them how to get in shape and how to make their lives easier. Or maybe you're someone who is more in the academic space and you help graduate students finish their thesis statements or mini dissertations. You help them with that and you teach them how to outline and edit, or you may offer editing services, and you just teach them how to organize it so that they can have a better graduate experience. So your knowledge can easily be transferred into something in a brand messaging, but you want to know who you serve, whether you serve college students, graduate students, mothers, men, women, specific age groups. Maybe you work with millennials or you work with zillennial populations or baby boomers. You can decide on who your target audience is and what process and systems you help them resolve in their problem in their life. And also remembering why you do it and what's the mission. And also the vision. Where do you want to take this? Because it's extremely important when you're planning a business, and especially an online business, where is this going to go? That innovation element will be extremely important. How are you going to sustain this success as technology changes, as the world changes and things happen so quickly? How are you planning on sustaining that type of success? This one, you really want to get, I think this is number three. You really want to make sure that you are being very specific about your target audience. You want to specify it. I speak to so many people in my online brand strategy business for women about, well, who do you serve? What is your product? Who is your target audience? And I get this answer almost every other day. I can help anyone. I can help everyone become unstuck. I can help anyone do this. When you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. If I am trying to sell, for example, hair products, I need to sell hair products to people who actually have hair. So that is a specific thing that I need to sell. Uh, that's a specific need. If someone has hair and they want it to be combed or they want it to be shiny or less frizzy, I can talk specifically to people with frizzy hair, and I can put that on my products. This product is anti-frizz, or this product is for curly hair. If I'm talking to everyone, I'm not talking to anyone. I can't serve a product if it's specifically for hair and I am advertising to people who don't have hair. You want to be very specific and you want to answer these questions and more questions, but these are some that you can start off with. What is their biggest problem? What is the one thing that they are up at night trying to solve? What is the one thing that your audience is currently Googling that they need help with? They go to the search engine and they're saying to themselves, how can I solve this problem? And how can you be a solution to that problem? So it's extremely important to identify your target audience's pain point. And that could be something as, I want to lose weight. I want to grow my hair longer. I want to go back to school. Maybe you know how to access money and funds for scholarships. I want to become clear about, I want to get a job. Maybe you're a career coach and you want to help people get back into the workforce. What is that problem that you can solve? So you want to think about that. Also, you want to know where your target audience hangs out online. Where do they go for information? Where are they? Because that will make your marketing and your branding very specific and strategic. You want to go where your audience is. Social media is extremely important, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But you don't need to be everywhere. You want to be in the places where your target audience is. If you have a more professional audience, you really want to be on platforms like LinkedIn. So you want to make sure, if you have a more visual brand, how do you find out your target audience's behaviors? Excellent question. And we don't really think about this. You ask them. Just like as researchers, you do surveys and you ask people questions. You say, you find somebody, focus groups, Or you can send out surveys on SurveyMonkey. You can ask online. You can do an interview also. That one is really, really well. You can ask a couple of people, hey, can I interview you if they're in your target audience? Can I interview you? You can ask them these questions. What is your biggest problem? What is currently keeping you frustrated? And you can say, where do you hang out online? What social media platforms do you prefer? You can ask them for their age range. You can ask them where they live, if they're married or they're single, if they're men or women. You can literally ask your target audience these questions. People are generally want to be helped and they like helping you. If they see you're doing something positive, people usually gravitate towards positivity and they really like to help. Would you recommend reaching a target market? Okay, there's two things with this. Some people will fit into their target market and some people won't. Depending on the product and the service that you have, you may not be your ideal target market. You can be your ideal target market, but you don't have to be. So that can go either way. If it's something maybe because a lot of our ideas come from experience and they come from a problem that we've had that we've been able to overcome and resolve. So sometimes we do perfectly fit into our target audience, but there may become a time where you don't fit into your target audience. So it all depends on what your personal brand is and what your solutions are. So that can go back and forth, but you don't have to. You don't have to limit yourself to just working with people who are like you or solving problems for a group that may resonate with you more. It really depends on the products and services that you offer. For example, if you are someone who is helping with college and career stuff, you may no longer be in college and your career may be being an entrepreneur. Would you recommend reaching out? I do recommend it. Would you recommend reaching out a target market? Would you? I do recommend it. Yes, I do recommend it. I'm a millennial. I speak to a lot of millennial entrepreneurs. That's what one of the target audiences that gravitates to me the most. So I speak to them a lot. But I also have people who are not in that target audience at all. But I still am more specific about my age range. I know where they primarily live. I know if they're married or single. And if you do this, you can also find this out through research and analytics, your social media analytics. But once you know where they hang out, you can know where to focus your time. So it's extremely important to be very clear about this and doing surveys, finding out who gravitates towards your messaging and your branding the most, and also who you want to work with. So it's a balance. It's a balance of who's willing to pay for your products and services and who gravitates towards you and who you also want to work with. So it's definitely a balance, but you don't have to be in your target audience. For example, there's a male coach. He works with women entrepreneurs. He's not his target audience. Do you think target audience can be done independently? I think both. There are market research firms that do research on this all the time. But if you are a solo entrepreneur, it really is important to find out for yourself. You can create a templated web. You can do it on Typeform, or you can do a Survey Monkey and send it out to people. Maybe there's some incentive that you will give them a free product or service, and you just talk to them. I've had people do this with me. I've had people do this that were in the UK. They sent me a survey and I completed it. So you can have people from around the world answer your questions. You don't have to just limit yourself to the people around you. You can just ask. And you will be absolutely surprised at how people will respond to you online. So I have not worked with a company that has decided to change their target audience down the road. Well, I will say I originally, when I started, I was doing more college and career coaching because my background is in education. I shifted and I did a rebrand and I focused more on branding women entrepreneurs and doing brand strategy. So I have personally shifted, but the reason why I shifted was because most of the people who were coming to me for college and career coaching wanted to start businesses. So that's another thing. You have to listen to your target audience. They will tell you what they want. So that's why it's extremely important to do that market research, to do those surveys, interviews, and focus groups, because they will tell you what they need from you. When I was doing more college and career coaching, they were telling me we need help developing our brands to be entrepreneurs. We need help with business strategy. So it was partially what I could offer and partially what they were telling me they needed from me. So you want to make sure that there's a nice balance of what you can do and what your target audience needs from you. Because they're in that space, there's the opportunity. And in that opportunity, there is profitability because you can market that because they told you exactly what they wanted. So you use the information that you get from the focus groups, from the interviews and the surveys, and you speak directly to the people and what they said they want. Even though it may be something that you think that they need, but you really want to talk about what they said they wanted and how you're going to help them and how you're going to solve that problem. And you'll be able to do that by knowing who they are, where they live, what their life is like. Do they have children? What do they like to do? Where do they go to eat? Do they shop at a Whole Foods, or do they prefer a Walmart or a Target or a Costco? You can speak directly to them when you know more about them. When you know about the demographics, when you know about where they live, how much money they make, you can speak directly to them. So it's extremely important to get as much research as possible. And you can do some of that through analytics on Facebook and on Twitter and on social media, but it's just so good to do it some old school way and just talk to people. And we're going to talk about that too. Position yourself and your expertise. So, why do we want to be experts online? Because there is so much information online. There are so many websites. There's so much information and so much misinformation online. You want to make sure that you're positioning yourself as an expert, the go-to person for your particular niche market or topic. You want to say you want to go to this person. If we're looking for someone to talk about this particular field, especially in the academy, we go to everyone knows if you go to specific people for name X amount of X topic. We know that this person is the expert in that topic. And if you don't cite that person, then you haven't done your research. So you want to become that person. You want to become that person in the marketplace. And these are some of the reasons why you really want to become that person who is the expert and an easily recognizable expert, because they're easy to find. They stand out from the crowd. People pay attention to experts, and also experts get paid more money. If we're looking for, when we look at the media, if you're looking at a CNN, NBC, or Fox News, they always talk about this person is an expert in this or expert in that. They're looking for experts. The media is looking for experts. The online marketplace is looking for experts. People who are looking for information are looking for people who stand out as experts. And you want to make sure that you're positioning yourself as an expert. And even if you're new to the online space, you're new to your business, you're new to consulting, coaching, or doing graphics and creative design, you can still position yourself as an expert because you have life experience. And we're going to talk about leveraging that life experience. Some of the things that you can talk about to position yourself. And this goes back into the questions about if you fit into your target market. You can talk about your educational background, how that relates to your brand. How does that help you with branding? You can also talk about your related work experience. And then you can look at your educational background, your related work experience, and see how those skills are transferable. You can see how those skills are transferable and how they help you in the online market space. And in addition to going back about talking about whether you fit into your target audience or not, sometimes many people do fit into their target audience. Some people that I know, they work with military families because they were former military. So they definitely fit into their market. They utilize their past experience, their past successes. So you can also talk about your past successes of how you've overcome that particular obstacle, or how you have helped to create something that was innovative, an innovative product or service. You can use your own life, your own successes, and sometimes your own failures to help people overcome a problem or an issue. So definitely that would be instrumental if you are your ideal client. But sometimes you still, even if you are your ideal audience member or target market person, you want to make sure you remove yourself from it, because there are some cases where we cannot see everything. It's extremely important to enlist some other voices from our target market, just so we get multiple perspectives, because we have a lot of blind spots. And that's why it's extremely important to have teachers, mentors, and coaches that can see things that we can't see. They can see the blind spots that we're unable to see. Let's go to the next one. Now we're going on to this topic about social media. In 2015, if you're not on social media, you don't have a website, you don't exist. Gone were the days that you could have a great presence and have a great brand without social media. We know that print media is having a huge problem because social media is becoming so huge. We know that even television and radio are declining because of social media. So we want to position ourselves on these platforms so we can become more visible. It's extremely important to contribute to this online conversation. People are not just waiting for newspapers anymore, tangible physical newspapers. We're waiting for news to come instantly to our phones and to our computers instantly. So we want to make sure that we're contributing to the online market space. We're connecting and collaborating with other influencers. What social media platform would you say was most effective if you had to pick one? I answer that question based on the target market. If I am doing something professional and I'm doing more corporate training or consulting, then LinkedIn is where I'm going to go. If my brand is visual and I'm a photographer or I'm a graphic designer, even some brand strategists, Instagram. But the demographics on Instagram are young, and they said, I think a new study said there are more women on Instagram. If I'm targeting maybe stay-at-home mothers or people who like to craft and coupon, I'm going to be on Pinterest because that's a female-dominant platform. LinkedIn, there's more men on LinkedIn. Twitter is popular with millennials. Are you familiar with? No, I'm not familiar with that. I'm going to have to look into that. Can you tell me what that is? Quora. I'm going to look into that platform. Tell me a little bit about that one. There's some other ones. It comes up a lot in our Google Analytics. I'm going to look into it. What platform is it? That's interesting. I'll add that too. There are so many, but you want to make sure that you're on the main ones. If you are doing anything with video, you need to be on YouTube. The second largest search engine is you have Google, then you have YouTube. That's the second largest one. I'm not sure. I want to ask the internet. Okay, we'll look into that, Jeff. Please let me know. The first largest one you have is Google. Then you have YouTube. Make sure YouTube is owned by Google. So you want to make sure that you're on the big ones, the big five, they say. But it all depends on what your brand is. And this is a very brand specific question. If you're a multinational corporation like the Apples, the McDonald's, the huge organizations out there, Johnson & Johnson, then you need to be on everything. But if you are a smaller business and you have a smaller market, you want to focus your attention on the places where your audience is. So it all depends on where your audience hangs out. That's why it's extremely important to really know where your target audience is. So when you think of, you can develop a social media strategy around that. And also you want to be the places where your target audience, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. Oh, okay. You want to make sure that you are where your audience is and really being focused on where they are. So we talked about the YouTube, Facebook. Facebook is really popular. I think there's over 1 billion people on Facebook. So you want to know where your people are. The Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, we'll get to that. There'll be a slide about those social media platforms. And you're more than just your website. So people are going to go to your website and then they're also going to say, where are you at on social media? And you want to make sure that you're just not a website because your website might be static. It may stay the same. You might not do as many updates, but you want to make sure that there's some way for them to connect with you and talk to you at any time. And then remember, you are the brand, so you want to become a social influencer. A social influencer, I didn't explain what it was. A social influencer is someone who influences and displays their expertise online, on social media in particular. So you want to make sure you're an influencer. You're telling people what to do. You're telling them what to look out for and how they should respond to things that are happening in their lives. You give them advice. You tell them what to do. And you also are someone who's influencing them to make an act. You're evoking emotion and doing a call to action. It's so important to share your expertise online. If you're an expert, you need to include yourself in the conversation because there's so many people that are saying things and adding information. You want to make sure that you are also giving yourself the opportunity to do that also. And you want to also, how do you do that? So how do you become an expert? How do you display your social influence? It's through creating consistent content. You can create content through blogging, video blogs, podcasts, info products, services, social media. Now we have the list. I am not sure. Okay. I thought I saw a question come up. I didn't see it. Okay. Going back to the social media posting and engagement, how long do you think it takes to create an audience? I will give you, it depends. It really depends on who your audience is, where they're at, and what you're doing, your strategy, your brand strategy, and how much you are engaging them and how often you are engaging them. YouTube, it depends. It really depends. Some people are having overnight success. The older platforms like the YouTubes and the Facebook, it's hard. It depends on your brand because some people are having success. And I'll tell you, it's not really about having 1 million followers or 30,000 likes. It's really about influencing and impacting a specific target market and developing and building a tribe that really loves what you do and that really supports you. And I always say this, I'd rather have 1,000 people who are really rooting for me than 1 million people who don't really care. So a lot of times we see a lot of people with large followings on social media, but there's been some people with smaller followings who've been extremely successful online. So when I work with clients, I really tell them to focus on being intentional and focus on just talking to the people that really want to work with you. You can still be successful with just 1,000 people. So don't go too crazy and say, oh, I need 1 million people. Work with the people who want to work with you, be intentional and provide them value and a great service. And they will help you reach more people. And I've added this new one, Periscope. Periscope is a Twitter app. It's a mobile app that was just created. It launched in March. People are seeing extreme success on Periscope, building their brands. It's a live streaming app. You can talk to people in real time from around the world. I would highly suggest getting on Periscope if you are trying to build your brand and build your audience quickly. This Periscope it's happening very quickly. People are building their audiences within weeks, not months, not days, not months, but in weeks. You can have a substantial audience. It's only been out since March. The Twitter has seen a decline, and that's why Twitter also created Periscope because Twitter was on the decline. People were getting extremely frustrated with 140 characters, so they created this live streaming app, which is integrated with Twitter and is making it extremely more popular. I am not that much of a Twitter fan, but a lot of my target audience is on Twitter. So I use Periscope. It's absolutely amazing. LinkedIn for a professional. Instagram if you have that visual brand. If you're actually selling a product, you can look up one of the best Instagram profiles is yes. Periscope is owned by Twitter. It's a Twitter mobile app. It's live streaming, and there's only about 7 million users on it right now, 7 million and counting. Whereas Facebook has 1 billion, Periscope has only 7 million. So it's definitely growing. There's a huge room for growth. Every single day, people are gravitating towards that new platform. Pinterest is really popular. This is brand specific. So which ones are the best? It depends on who your target audience is and what you're planning to do with these. But when in doubt, go with the tried and true ones that we use so far. The Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, I would say at this point. I know there's a question coming up, so I'm going to wait for that question. Any other questions about this stuff? And also blogging. You can do your personal blog. You can write blogs you were going to mention the Instagram to check out is Starbucks. Starbucks does extremely well with visual branding and Instagram. So if you want to get an idea, thank you for reminding me. If you want to get an idea or some inspiration about what can I do to really stand out on Instagram, check out Starbucks. They do a great job at curating an experience for their audience. They get off. There are the misspelled. I think there's like an alternate Instagram or Twitter for that, where they've misspelled all the names of people's names on cups. I've seen that. Do you think it's intentional? The intentional part about misspelling the names, or the intentional part about the branding on their Instagram? The branding on the Instagram is definitely intentional. They use a certain filter. It's a specific feel that they're trying to give, an experience that they're trying to give their target audience. So that part is definitely intentional. The part about the misspelled names in that fake Instagram page is just fun. Misspelling names for branding purposes because they are constantly shared. That could be an unintentional tactic, or it could be that their names are very difficult and people just misspell them too. It's a mix of both. I think it's a mix of both for the baristas. And either way, it works for them. Their brand works for them. It's amazing to watch what they do on Instagram. There's smaller accounts that do Instagram extremely well too. And people have been seen extreme success for monetizing Instagram, whether they serve a product or a service. They've been seeing extreme success with that too. But the new kid on the block is definitely Periscope, and people are doing really well on that platform also. Content creation. When you're creating content, as we're talking about Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, you want to make sure you're still positioning yourself as that social influencer and expert through education. You want to educate your audience. What do you want them to learn? What do you want them to do? What do you want them to know? You want to empower them. You want to make sure that they feel like they have the opportunity to do what you're doing. They have the opportunity to learn this knowledge and be great in their lives. People like to be inspired. Most people don't go on social media to be sold. They go on there to be inspired and look at beautiful pictures and look at beautiful graphics. You also want to engage people. You want to make sure that when you're on social media, that if people are asking you questions, they're talking to you, that you're engaging them back and forth. You don't just want to have a page and you're not talking to people back. This is an opportunity for people to connect with you. And that's one of the reasons Periscope is becoming so popular, because it gives you the opportunity in real time to engage with people. And I know there was an article recently about Periscope and how it's going to be a game changer for the 2016 election. People are going to be scoping from platforms and talking directly to people from around the world about their platforms for this 2016 election. So it's definitely going to be a game changer for elections. It's going to be a totally different way to market ourselves online, and it's going to be extremely different for how we just think about social media and how we think about engagement overall online. Also, the part about entertainment. So going back to the Starbucks example about misspelling the names and making a Instagram page about it, that's entertaining. Many people can relate if you have a difficult name. Like my name is Shadé, but it's spelled like shade, so it's spelled wrong all the time. So some of it is a little bit of frustration mixed with entertainment. In addition, when you're creating content, you want to evoke emotion, and you want to create an emotional experience and also a call to action. You want to make sure that you are doing something. I did not add Google Plus. Is there any Google Plus, based on the last stats that I saw, is male dominated? And there are ways to monetize Google Plus. I just don't use it as often. They've tried to make Google Plus as big as Facebook, but it didn't work. And that's what basically happened. It did not grow as big as they thought it was going to be. They thought it was going to be like the next Facebook, and people did not gravitate to it as fast, or they didn't gravitate to it as at all. But Google Plus and Google Hangouts have been extremely instrumental, but they've also just integrated it with YouTube. So some of the things that happen on Google Plus are just directly integrated with YouTube, which is great. But it was not as successful as Google thought it was going to be. I manage social media, and I haven't had much leveraging it. Exactly, because they put it out there, but people did not gravitate towards it as they thought was going to happen. So there is all, I've seen some people do some things with Google Plus, but it doesn't really come up on the radar. I personally don't spend a lot of time on Google Plus. I only share YouTube videos on it, and that's about it. I don't really spend much time on it because I know that there's other avenues that I can leverage better and that my clients can leverage much better and faster than Google Plus. There's still a learning curve for it, and until I'm pretty sure there's some people who have positioned themselves as experts on Google Plus. There are, but it just hasn't been something that I have taken my time to actually pay attention to. Social media management, networking. So your network really will reflect your net worth. It's extremely important to network. And I encourage people, especially if you have an online business or an online brand, you want to network online and offline. And you want to tap into your online and local networks. You want to tap into your community and civic groups. You want to tap into your alumni associations, religious institutions, local organizations. And you can also tap into your online network. We talked a little bit about defining and redefining your target audience. You can have a meetup of people who are your ideal clients or your ideal target market. You can find them on Facebook groups. There's a Facebook group for just about anything and everything. Periscope just started. We have Periscope support groups, Amazon groups, Facebook groups, Twitter groups. You have groups about any particular topic that you can think of. There's a group, or you can start it. So if there's not a group that talks about your particular niche, you can start it yourself. So there's so many avenues for knowledge and so many avenues for research and opportunities to network with people. As a matter of fact, today, prior to this webinar, I met someone who I met on Periscope. We had just a little lunch today. So it's possible. So there are so many opportunities to just network on and offline by leveraging your social media and leveraging what you do online. And also, it's a great way to attract your target market. And the meeting today, we did some brainstorming and we were able to really talk about leveraging our target markets and doing some branding right at Starbucks today. So social media is really changing the game and it's giving everyone an opportunity to be successful online. So I just want to do a brief recap because we're running out of time. Remember to discover your why. Why are you doing this? Why are your products and services needed? Why do we need someone who's a social media manager? It's extremely important. It has become extremely important to do social media management. And I do work with a social media manager. Rocking your brand messaging, being very clear so people know what you do and so people can connect with you. Because when you create confusion, people do nothing. So you want to make sure that your brand messaging is clear. We know who you are, what you do, and how you can help us. You also want to make sure you niche down and be very specific about your target audience because you can specifically talk to them. You can talk about their problems and the things that they have. I'll use the social media management problem. If you're someone who does not know anything about social media, but you know that you need to be on it because you have a brand or you have a business or you have something you're trying to do, it's extremely important to work with someone who knows how to manage social media. They will save you time and they will take your pain away. And they will take your pain and frustration away that you have with being online. Positioning yourself as an expert, as we said, experts get paid more money. People pay attention to experts. Experts tell us what to do, what to look out for, and what to expect. They give us a forecast of the future, and we look for experts. So we want to make sure that we're being one because we know that they stand out. Being a social influencer, showing and displaying your expertise online, talking, creating, collaborating with people who are in the online market space and positioning yourself as someone who is the go-to person in your particular niche market. Number 6 is creating that consistent content. You need to make sure that whatever you do, you're being consistent. Consistency is extremely important in the online space, especially when you have billions and billions and countless websites. And people won't be able to find you if you're not consistently creating. And the last one is to always remember to network. There are people that you currently know that could benefit from your services. And if they can't benefit from your services, they know someone else who can. You're always 1 or 2 degrees away from everything and everyone that you need to know. So you want to make sure you're tapping into your network. And if you have exhausted your network, always look online for meetup groups, Eventbrite, Facebook.com. Look for events that you can go to in your local area to meet new people. It's extremely important. If there's any questions, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you for the comments, the questions. It's been awesome. If you would love to contact me, you can find me on all of my social media platforms. I'm also on YouTube. I didn't add that on here. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Periscope. I'm waiting for the questions. If it's going to be any question. I see there's questions being added.
You have a few extra minutes here. If anyone has any additional questions, follow-ups, that sort of thing, feel free to type them right in the chat box. I know, Shadé, I actually had a question for you. I just wanted to know your thoughts on using Snapchat. I know that there's some bigger companies that have used that platform, so I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that.
I have not talked about Snapchat, and I was actually going to do a. Some brands have been using Snapchat to do launch previews. And I have not, I was actually going to get on Snapchat. I was like, I'm on too many social media platforms. I need to focus. And I did not. Because Periscope came out, I opted out of Snapchat for Periscope. And it has really been a game changer. And it's not even about being on every social media platform. And I think eventually I will get a Snapchat, but it just did not appeal to me because we have Instagram where you can keep the pictures up. Having things disappear, that just adds another thing that I have to look at. But so I just, for me, I don't really care for Snapchat. And there's other ones. There's some new ones that come out all the time. But I would say go with what works for you. Any suggestions to monetize my brands once I have it? How do you narrow down your target demographic? Okay. Okay. What the brand for social media management? Getting on social media and telling people you manage social media. That's the easiest way to monetize it, and telling them how much you charge. How much do you charge for creating 100 posts for people? Whether it's on, do you do posts across on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter? That's one of the things my social media manager does. She has a specific price, she has a time frame, and she tells you how much. And that's how you might telling people I'm a social media manager and saying this is how much I charge. I will manage your Facebook. I will manage your Twitter accounts. I will manage your Instagram accounts. And I'll also help you with Periscope. Oh, freelance sites. Upwork. Upwork. Let me see if I can put that up. It used to be Elance, but Upwork, it used to be Elance and Odesk, but Elance and Odesk merged, and I believe it's Upwork.com. Also, another one that people use for social media management is Fiverr.com. And there's Freelancer, if it's still out there, but Upwork. You can freelance your services on Upwork.com. Many solo entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs use Upwork for social media management, for graphic design, for freelance websites, graphics, logos. Fiverr starts at $5. You can get just about anything you need when you're starting a business on Fiverr. Fiverr.com, and Upwork is the new one. It used to be Odesk/Elance, and they've merged. If I wanted to get started, do I quit my job or just start a side job? Don't quit your job if you need the money for your job. Definitely start it and develop a contingency plan of if you want to leave your 9 to 5. So start it, put your brand out there, and develop a contingency plan. What I will say is if you currently have a job, and do not change anything on LinkedIn. Some people have been seeing that they receive repercussions if they update their LinkedIn with something that they're doing as a side gig, because people are anticipating that you're going to leave your job. So I would not update LinkedIn. I would utilize other platforms that people who I work with may not be on, and I would do it that way, or just do it. Start working on it and develop a contingency plan if your plan is to leave your 9 to 5. but don't leave until you have that plan in place, or at least some capital and some savings to sustain you. Awesome, no problem. Are there any other questions? Monetize once I have it. Leveraging how? Oh, narrow your target demographic down. Jeff, do you have a demographic that you would like to suggest? Is there any what would you what services or products do you have? What are you thinking about? And then I can kind of think of where to go with that. Narrow it down. You can narrow it down by location. You can narrow it down. Let's see. Now give me career expert. Excellent. Who do you want to work with? Do you want to work with people who are just getting into the career, pre-career professionals, or seasoned career professionals? And what do you want to mid-level execs? Okay, so then you want to do some career trainings or corporate leadership training. Um, is there a particular industry that you are really you have an expertise in? It's too broad. Okay, what particular field? This is where you can think about your work experience. It's too broad. What kind of mid-level execs? Programming. So are there tech? Okay. So you can be more specific. So what are the problems? What is the pain point that mid-level executives have in the tech industry? What are some of the issues and the problems specifically that are niche specific to this industry? Keeping up with new technology. So what are learning coding, learning new languages. So what are some things that they can do that you can help them? What system? We're talking about systems being put in place. What systems can you develop to teach them about new technology? That could even be something that you do. You go to tech companies and you tell them about the innovations in technology. You tell them what to expect, what to anticipate. You could be someone who forecasts what happened in the tech industry. There's so many blogs about tech training, maybe selling trainings for tech companies. So it seems like you've niched it down. Talking specifically to the tech industry, there's so many conferences, there's so many schools, there's so many places that you could speak at. Silicon Valley is a great place to go when you're talking about tech. Maybe you want to talk to even startups, how to start up and how to keep up with new technology when you're a startup. Very true, but maybe I should do a webinar. You can always do a webinar. That's one of the ways you can get people to learn about you. You can do a webinar. You can do some live speaking events if you want to build your brand. I would definitely start writing about it, blogging about it, getting opportunities to do a webinar and speaking about it, and talking about the transitions and the innovations in technology that are happening and what we should look for. Remember, the experts tell us what we should know and what we should do and what we should be thinking about in the future. So because you're telling us about technology, what are some of the things, the advancements in technology that the tech industry should be paying attention to? Maybe we should be paying attention to drone technology. How they're going to maybe we should be paying attention to live streaming technology. What should we be paying attention to? So that's the problem you would solve. You would tell us what we should be paying attention to in the tech industry. Write it down. I always give people this advice. For the next 7 days, spend about 15 minutes in the morning or in the afternoon just writing down everything that's in your mind. Write it down, do not edit it. After the 7 days, look at it again and start refining your vision because you want to make sure you're very clear when you go out into the marketplace. And you can start brainstorming and talking to people in the tech industry, asking them what are their biggest problems, what are the ways that you can help them streamline their process, help them develop a training so that they can be aware of new technology. Or that can be even a blog, new tech something, I don't know, new technology with Jeff. And you teach and you just start blogging or doing something that has to do with technology, and you're telling people, you're giving them the tips and the tools to be ahead of the game when they're thinking about technology. And there's definitely a lot of room for that. Thank
Excellent.
you
Thank
so much.
you, Shadé. You've given us a lot of information this evening. Very amazing. We have gone over just a little bit, but that's okay. You know, many questions have been asked this evening, so it's great. Just in wrapping up real quick, just a little bit more about Brandeis Graduate Professional Studies. On the screen, you'll see a list of our 10 100% online master's degree programs, which all offer applied skills that can be used directly in the workplace. All programs are 10 courses and 30 credits. And we're actually excited to announce that starting this fall, GPS is going to be offering a program in digital marketing and design, which is very applicable to this evening's presentation. Um, so for more information on the launch of this new program and on our other programs, make sure to check out our website at www.brandeis.edu/GPS. And also make sure to connect with us through social media and also to subscribe to our blog, the Brandeis GPS blog, just to stay up to date on student and job spotlights, networking opportunities, and most importantly, special events like tonight's webinar. So on behalf of all of us at Brandeis Graduate Professional Studies, Shadé, thank you so much for presenting tonight.
Cool. Thank you for having me.
And we also want to thank everyone for attending our webinar this evening. And that sums it up. Have a great night, everyone.